What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. Joined here by the captain, Mr. Andy Fulton. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Agbrett. Andy, what's going on, dude? How's the grind?
The grind is a grind. Catching a lot of fish, having a ton of fun. Got a couple guys in from Boston for these 2 days. One is an avid podcast listener to the Serious Angler Network, and that is how he found me for the guide trips. And today, as we're recording this morning was a ton of fun. Caught a ton of fish, and tomorrow we're gonna hopefully put a 6-pounder in the boat for them. But broke multiple PBs today, so that was cool.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can't complain with that.
No, not one bit.
Cannot complain. Yeah, breaking PBs is always the highlight of the trip for sure.
Right.
Everybody wants to get that elusive 6-pound mark, but when you're breaking PBs, there can be no complaints.
Yeah, dude, it's funny. Like, I have a feeling like getting a 6-pound mark. Like, I put a lot of work in out there, and I feel like getting a 6-pounder is almost lucky at this point. I'm not disqualifying your fish and saying that it's not lucky.
I'll say it's lucky. I'll say my fish was lucky, dude.
Because we're in the right spot at the right time, and there was a 7-1 caught 100 feet away from us. So, like, there were just big fish biting that day. But I feel like there's a lot of people who just stumble onto giants and then claim that they're really good at catching big fish. And then there are guys that put a lot of work in and still put a lot of big fish in the boat, but they also put a lot of quality in, as opposed to a bunch of 2 and 3 pounders and then a random 6. So I don't know. The guide industry here in Buffalo is funky right now, I think, from watching posts and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Well, I will say my 614 was all luck because I literally just fired a random cast. And I was just happened to be one of 3 guys throwing a drop shot that day that hooked into it. There was no skill involved on my end. It was all yours. It's credit to my guide that day.
Bravo, thank you.
Technically, it shouldn't even be my fish, I feel like, because I put in no work. That is one thing I will say that feels weird about that one, is that I felt like I didn't put in any work because I was sitting there lollygagging in the back, enjoying my day with you and Sean, and just literally finally pick up a drop shot and catch 614. And I was like, well, that was pretty cool.
You called it a 1-pounder multiple times.
Well, dude, when I set the hook, you heard it. Like, I'm like, this thing's small. And then it was like, it's getting kind of heavier.
And I think I said at one point, as you're saying, I would go, don't count your blessings yet, buddy. I'm like, sometimes some big ones do that. And all of a sudden I was like, I saw it on Mega Live and I was like, oh, that ain't 1-pounder.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, dude, really, aside, we've talked smallmouth a lot, and completely different 180. Talking some Coosa River bass. We're here with Mr. Will Davis, who's joining us on the show today, who won the recent Bassmaster Elite event on Lay Lake in some pretty spectacular fashion. It was pretty cool to watch him go through each day, where it seemed like you didn't see the same background or areas. It seemed like it was very in the moment, fishing instinctually, fishing whatever circumstances were thrown his way, which was going to be really cool to talk to him about. We talked with Justin Hamner that week after that event as well, talking about how the Coosa sets up. But I think this dude is going to be pretty cool to chat with about it, because from the sounds of it, there ain't anybody that knows Lay Lake better than Mr. Will Davis here. So let's bring him on here. Mr. Will Davis, what's going on, dude?
How's it going, gentlemen? I appreciate y'all having me on.
Heck yeah! I see we have a guest. We have a guest pooch.
Yeah, that's Amelia. I'm a quail guide, and this is my flusher right here. I got a lab and a cocker spaniel, so I got Millie. She's a little baby. So
I didn't realize that was a big deal down there in Bama.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. There's a lot of quail preserves down here, and yep. One of my bosses, or actually my only boss, Chris Landers. He's a big fisherman and fished the Alabama Bass Trail and everything. So yeah. So it kind of all worked out the way I made the Elite Series. So it was a quail guide and got me here. So
that's That's pretty cool, dude. I'm actually really intrigued now, but I'm gonna hold my hunting rant. We'll see if we can intertwine it here throughout the show. But before we get too deep, because you're new to the show, we like to throw it back. We like to hear about your roots and how you got your start in bass fishing in the first place, and who is at fault for this lifelong obsession.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that'd be my dad, William Davis. He's owner of Davis Bait Company, and um, he got me started in the fishing world. Old enough for me to cast, so probably about 3, 4, 5 years old. And just started fishing off of the dock at Cedar Creek on Lay Lake, and started fishing tournament. My first tournament was a Tuesday nighter out of Cedar Creek, and man, I'll never forget it. I was so small. I had a giant thunderstorm come up, and I actually got up under the console behind the hot foot. Actually, we didn't have we had hot foots back then. A lot of guys, they run just throttle, just like Mike Iaconelli does now. So, but I got up under, in front of his feet in there, and I was scared to death, but you just don't forget stuff like that. But I was probably 7 years old, and I just really started fishing tournaments after that, and me and him fished a lot of local tournaments and fished high school there at Sylacauga High School in 2011. That's the year I graduated. That was the first year that we had it, and after that, I got a full ride scholarship to Bethel University in Tennessee. And Kenny Loudon and Gary Mason, they just kind of took us under their wing and fished all over the United States, and came home and started flipping burgers, man, working at Davis Bait Company and working at Good Old Boys down here in Sylacauga and flipping the burgers and then I started in the medical field and which I did not get a degree in that. I was working at a DMP or something there in Jackson Hospital in Montgomery selling CPAPs. And then after that, I went to St. Vincent's and worked up there for 5 years running sleep studies. And the midnights, like Andrew's talking about him, or you were saying Andrew's falling asleep. I know exactly what he means. Them midnights are rough, man. And done that for 5 years, and that led me to I had 5-star out there as a quail guide, and right before I went to 5-star, I fished the Opens in 2017 and missed the cut by like 6-7 points to make the Elite Series, and it was a God's thing, God's timing. I wasn't ready then, and I didn't try the next year. 2020, I started fishing the Federation. Actually, 2019, I started fishing the Federation. Pretty heavy, I fished 2 or 3 local tournaments, and then I qualified for the state championship. And actually, I won an event on Lay Lake. It was just like our regional, or not a regional, not like a southeastern regional that they got going on right now. It's just like a Alabama qualifier, and I ended up winning that, so it qualified me for the state championship. And I went. Didn't do good in state championship, but I already made the state team through winning that tournament. So I went and fished at Okeechobee, and Matt Robertson actually donkey stomped everybody down there, and I didn't make it. And so the next year, I fished it again and qualified through Lay Lake. Made a state championship on Lake Martin and won that one, and then went to the regional at Smith Lake and won that one, and then went to the national championship at Pickwick and won that one, and then qualified me for the Bassmaster Classic and then Elite Series, and we're 5 events in, and very blessed to have my first win, and that's where we're at.
That's a pretty wild ride, I'd say. I mean, the Bethel University full ride, that was one that really stuck out for me. So was college fishing a big part of kind of helping you get to where you're at now?
I'd say it definitely laid it was definitely a foundation for me. It get me between that and my dad, in the Federation. That's really the 3 key parts that got me here for sure.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I don't think I've heard of any other guys that have made it through the nation that also were heavily in college fishing, where it's like I think you got a cool avenue of seeing the two different routes beyond just going through the opens. Like you got to see two clear routes that you could take. Uh, Not that you can qualify for the elites through college, but a route that you can take that will assist in trying to make the elites or BPT, whichever you choose. But that's a pretty cool deal, man. I feel like that experience has definitely helped you from a tournament standpoint. Um, but I mean, dude, you're off to a really hot start on your rookie season in the elites. I mean, shoot, what was it? Was it Seminole that you were leading after day one or something like that? Was it? Did I confuse that?
No, that's right. Yeah, day one I
Yeah.
had a good day. I never lost any fish. Day two, I was fishing a back pond area, and they just left. Or I caught them all, and I lost a 4-pounder, and it just kind of went downhill from there. The whole tournament was a crapshoot, to be honest with you. The only positive side about it was I led day one, but day three I lost a 5-pounder that I didn't see, but I know it. It was a man. I couldn't turn her, and then I had 8 pounds. Then I had a 8-pounder up to the boat and almost had my hands on her. She came off. So yeah, I should have
Ouch.
finished top 5, top 8, 10. I'd been in the top 10 for sure. But it happens, man. It's a sport we live in.
Oh yeah, no,
Absolutely.
without a doubt. Well, dude, I mean, you talked about how you barely missed the elites in 2017, and making it now. You hear some guys talk about, or like, man, I'm really glad I didn't make it. That the year that I just missed it. You hear guys mention that. In your case, one, why do you think that is, and why do you think it was so important that you qualified this past year versus 2017?
2017, man, I was not ready. Financially, I was not ready. I was 24. Yeah, 24 then. I'm 30 now. 24, 25. Um, I was the type of guy that I had to have everything in order for me to do good type guy. And I didn't have my crap in order, man. Yeah, I had a job. I had a place to live, besides my parents' house and all that stuff, but I just was not ready financially, and that it was just a God thing, man. I would have not have made it if I would have made it, if that makes sense.
Mm. You think it would have been a bad result if you?
It would have been. It would have been. I wasn't level headed. Wasn't thinking clearly. And now I'm married to Megan. We've been married for 4 years, coming June, and actually I'll be going on to Sabine on our anniversary, and I know it, right? And then we got a beautiful daughter, Chandler. She's 11 months old, and yeah, life's good, man. Life's good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you got the trophy under your belt already, 100 grand check. I'd say things manifested in a way that I think you like that they would have worked out. I think
Yes,
it's got a rolling for you.
it don't 100 grand don't last long in this sport, so
Yeah.
you gotta you kind of gotta be smart with it, because we spend basically 80 grand a year,
Oh yeah,
and
that
so
ain't cheap. I think
it
that's one thing important that you called out too. Is that there's this us fishermen are naturally entranced by shiny objects, and an elite qualification, like say you fish one division, elite qualification seems pretty shiny, but when you don't have any social media, you don't have any money, and you've never fished outside of the next two states near you, uh there's definitely something to be said for what you called out of, like, especially being financially ready, having a backing, having that network system already set in stone, which I think the new format, like opens wise, forces anglers to have. But that's smart to call out, and I think it's important to mention is that it's a there's guys that I feel like have qualified that had some self-reflection. We're like, I'm not ready to do that yet. I think that's important to call out because it seems shiny. It's, you've desired it. That's why you're fishing it, but it might not be the right time to make that jump. And if it's meant to be, then you'll requalify, which obviously you did the way you wanted to do it. And now you're sitting here an Elite Series champ. So let's start diving into Lay Lake, dude, because that is home turf, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, as a crow flies, it's probably 3-4 miles from here.
Okay, so yeah, literally you could, 10 minutes you're at the
walk there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So like the timing of the year, I've heard that the lake was a little bit low, but even 5 to 8 inches on that body of water will drastically affect how those grass fish behave. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tidal type fishery. The fish pull up there, and they'll and let me back up. What causes that is because of the turbines. There's generators at the top end, or the north and the south dams, so it fluctuates daily. They change the time on the turbines. Alabama Power. It's won me a lot of money and it's cost me a lot of money. They'll say they'll run a generator from 7 to 7, and then you get out there and they won't run it to 9 to 4 or 9 to 2 or something. So that's what I mean by that standpoint. And so when they don't have them turbines on, that water drops. Or if we have a massive flood up the lake, it'll drop the midways to the lower dam. It'll drop it like 2 feet because it's all going in the backwaters and stuff. So it's kind of weird. But definitely with at least one turbine on, your chances of getting bit's a lot greater than no turbines on, just because of the fact that it scatters them, and the water's lower. So yeah, it's a feast or famine lake, and it's always been that way. Since I've been a little kid, you can go out there and wreck them on one day and not the next, and do the same thing. So it's a very challenging lake.
Yeah, it seemed like each day you were making a different adjustment than the day prior. Whether it was fishing a spawner, fishing grass fish, like it seemed like you were always changing it up. Like it seemed very instinctual. Were you running any history at all, or were you just kind of staying fluid, knew it areas were good, and just kind of running off pure instinct?
It was all history. Just because I fish that time of year, always we do most of our damage from February to 1st of June on that lake, and we was hitting the tail end of it. If we'd have been 2 weeks to a month back, it'd have took 80 pounds to win.
Oh dang! Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that time of year, man, they're in a funk. You got still some that's spawning both spots in largemouth. But with that being said, you have to adapt because every day's different out there. Now, with that being said, yes, I did run history, but I learned, through my years what to do at a certain time to make that adjustment. Because on that lake, timing is everything.
Right. So, with it being a lake that you've spent so much time on, how do you practice for something like that? Because I feel like you already had an idea with the conditions, how the lake's setting up. You probably already had an idea of what the heck you were going to do starting day one. How do you practice for something like that, or if at all?
Right. Yeah, I don't want to sound cocky when I say this, but I look for shad spawns and betters, and that was it in practice. I never hit a place. I never casted on a place where I caught one in the tournament, besides one place.
A lot of riding, just looking, kind
Yes,
of
sir.
just okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Because
sense.
I knew if I could find, and actually the place that you seen me catch the betters, I had a 6 and a 5 that was locked on the bed the day before. I'd pitch in there and they would bite it, which I had my hook bent, and they were gone. And that's Lay Lake for you.
One day
And
there,
that's
next
because
day
they
gone.
fluctuate the water so much.
Yep.
So they got uncomfortable and just scattered.
Yes, sir.
That's intriguing. That's the one thing about the Kuza, but also like the TVA that scares the crap out of me when you hear guys talking that they're fishing for spawners. And it's just like at any moment the TVA is just like, "Oh, you're gonna fish for spawners tomorrow." Oh, well, you thought different. We're gonna drop that. Yeah, we're gonna rise it 20 feet or drop it 10. Like it's insane to me.
Oh, you
So,
like
I
that
mean-
grass flat over there that's 6 foot deep? Let's add 10 feet of water. Now it's 16 and good luck.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, so going out, I mean, day one and probably getting your first bite, I mean, I had to feel good that you're just like you instinctually are vibing so well with this body of water that it's just it's what you want to be coming to fruition is happening.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you know, I started on a place right out the gate and never got bit on it. And yeah, I usually get one bite. But I had this place where the shad spawn was really heavy. And so I didn't start right on the juice because I knew I'd fish fast with a camera on me, just the nerves, all the hype of it and everything. And I don't mean to say it's cocky, but that's what I've done. You know, I separated me from that spot to where I started about 75 yards and just fished really fast, just calm myself down before I got to them because I knew in the past that, you know, this time of year and I ain't hit it. I was just going on a limb praying about it. But if I get bit there, it will be a 4 to 6 pounder. And, you know, it wasn't a 6 pounder, but it was a 4 pounder, you know, the second fish I caught that morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if I'd have pulled up there and started on that, I wouldn't have fished the jig right. There's no way, man. I was just pumped up like I done drank 20 Red Bulls or something, you know?
Yeah. That's such a good call out. I mean, the jitters is so real.
Yeah,
and
people don't realize that.
I mean, like you hear guys talk about it that have been doing it for 20 years now. I mean, I know Cooper Glant is a rookie, but in his YouTube channel, he catches the first fish on Santee, and he's like, "Look at my leg," and his leg's just twitching back and forth. And I mean, you see Rick Clunn, was it 2 or 3 years ago that caught? I think it was St. John's that caught like a 6 pounder. And you see him sit down, and he goes, "I'm going to sit here for a minute." And you see his hand going like this, and he goes, "If this stops, because this stops, I'll retire." It's like his famous, clip of him doing that. That's like a real deal. I mean, like even when you're not catching a fish, though, like when you're getting ready tournament morning, especially say like a classic. I mean, you're probably juiced up. I mean, the first fish, you're going to forget that you had, 12-pound fluorocarbon and jack it like you got 20 and break off. Like it's just
That's
Yikes.
How do you calm yourself down in something like that?
Time. Time. I mean, really.
Breathe.
Time. Yep. I mean, it couldn't have got no worse than the classic, man. You know, my first classic, I weighed in one fish in front of my family and friends the first day. So it was tough, man. That classic was brutal.
Yeah, I think when people looked at the results for that, I don't think they fully understood the grasp of how challenging it was for everybody. Like it seemed like Gussie, it was easy for Gussie when he wasn't catching that many fish a day. But like when you look at it, it's very, very few folks had a limit for 2 days. And there was guys that could have blown the tournament out of the water with the average fish they had, if they had 5. But I mean, there was the best in the world didn't have a limit, which says a lot. As much as I would have wanted to fish a classic, I don't know if I would have wanted to fish that body of water at that time.
No.
That looked
Hard
brutal.
pass.
To be honest with you, I don't care to go back, but it was a pretty place.
I mean, dude, I feel like it had to have been like hard to have confidence in anything.
It was,
You're
man.
just not getting bites.
Yeah, and the water temperature jumped like 6 or 7 degrees, in one day from our off day to our first day. So yeah,
Crazy.
I had them figured out, and then I didn't have them figured out, and then I had them figured out. It was just and didn't. So it's just one of them deals, I just glad that was behind me. I got to fish a classic, so
Yeah.
it was something special to me. But
well, I'd say you're in great position right now to get back to Grand, to get back to another classic. You're so far so good. How confident are you? Watch, we'll get to this towards the end because I don't want to derail the Lake conversation here. But after your first day on Lay, having some confidence rolling into the remainder of the tournament, what was there any adjustments throughout the rest of the tournament that were pretty major in regards to just changing up your game plan, or were you just kind of running history that fit with the current conditions?
See, the first day we had some clouds and it was kind of raining, just not raining but misting. It was pretty windy, and I knew with that wind it set them spots up. With the wind and the current, the way the wind was blowing out of the southwest, it would push that bait more so up on them flats than it would just no wind and just current. So, I caught a couple key fish on a I guess a shell bar that run out, had some stumps on it. On a spook and a shaky fish, and that's about it there. But I lost a big one. I had a double on, and of course the big one come off. Oh, you should have boat flipped them. Well, you get $100 grand on the line. See if you say the same.
Yeah.
There's no good scenario when you have two big ones on a spook. It's just you can have Gamakatsu best hooks in the world, and it still ain't gonna play. You got to have a lot of luck to get two big ones in. And unfortunately, I had one come off, and so I run the bed fishing deal, and I knew that was a 1 day deal. We was on the very end of that deal, and after seeing them two big ones gone, man, it really hurt my feelings, to be honest with you. And I caught the bucks. The bucks were still there, and caught them, and I caught them on that spook and shaky fish on that gravel bar, and then that's when I headed up to the dam, man, and I pulled up there. I was trying to catch everything. Thought I could catch 14 pounds down that lake, them big ones were there, and not have to go up to the dam until the second day. That was my game plan. But they turned two turbines on at 1 o'clock that day, and that day I weighed in at 4:30. No, 4 that day. So I knew that it takes about an hour for them fish to get up, and it takes 30 minutes to get back down from the dam to beeswax. So I knew I'd have me roughly an hour or so to catch them, and I pulled up. I had 12 pounds I got up there. I pecked around here and there, getting up there, and they turned the water on, and I caught a couple, 2-pounders. They really didn't help me. But from 3 o'clock or 2:45 to 3:30, I pulled up on one little deal, and I thought that this is gonna be the deal. And I jump off a 4-pounder. I catch a 4-pounder. Next cast, I catch a 3-pounder, and it's time to go back in. So the first day was great, and the second day, man, it set up perfect, man. I caught every fish I had caught up there tail racing. I had 18 something, and I had almost a 5.5 pound largemouth, and a couple 4-pound spots, and 2 that was okay, So it was day 2 was a good day, man. They bit that day. I probably caught 25 fish that day. And then day 3, that was a different animal there, Caught 6 bass day 3 and 6 bass day 4. So
dang.
Yes, sir.
I know day 4 it was like last minute, right? When you made that call.
Yeah, it's in practice. I went and I looked for a lot of brush piles, old brush piles that I've sunk over the years, and some people, that's just out there, just get on your hummingbird and just ride. And I found four good brush piles that I knew that the areas that they were in from the past, that they would be good. And I pulled up in practice, and I caught a 5 out of one and a 4 out of another one on a jerk bait. So the 4th day, man, I pull in there. I said, man, I'm going to start on my shad spawn, and Of course, there was a boat in there where I caught the big one on day one, so I couldn't do that. So I scrapped that and went and hit another place and caught a 2.5 pounder. Didn't know at the time, but I needed every one of them, the whole tournament, and I actually weighed that fish in too. So I leave my shad spawn. I go with my brush pile fish, man. I was like, I'll catch me one good one here. Man, I caught one dink and foul hooked a giant in the back, and I don't even know what it was. And that was it. And I hit all four of them good piles. And at 10 o'clock, man, I was like, this ain't good. So I run up north, all the way up there by the dam. I got these 2 boulders out there that's always got one on it. You're going to catch one, and that's all it's going to be. And, day 3, I caught a 4 off of it on our shaky head and shaky worm. I pulled up there, got on my waypoint, hit spot lock, cast just perfect. I got a little tree I line up with, the distance and everything. I throw up there, and it, washed it down to there, and it's boom, and I set the hook, and it's a 3 pounder. So with that being said, I only had 2 fish at like 10:30, man. I was like, oh my gosh, this ain't good,
Yeah,
I'm going
scary.
this thing. I know it, man. And you got 2 wolves in front of you. You know what I mean? You got
Oh,
Brandon Polnick and Jason Christie. You know they're going to catch them.
yeah. That's gotta be such a scary feeling, dude.
Oh,
I never let it rattle me, but I'd be lying if it wasn't in the back of my mind,
Yeah. Somebody just in the back, just feeling for the back of your head, just chasing you.
I know it. So I went up to the dam, and I've been saving this one spot for day 3 and 4, and I caught a 4 pounder off of it on day 2. Day 3. So I pull up there, man, it's catfish, drum, catfish. I'm like, oh my gosh. Throw it out there. Got a little bit different boat angle or position, fired up there, and I caught another 3 pounder. So I'm like, all right, this is good. So I got a 2 and a 3 and another 3. And then I throw up there and I catch a 12-incher. I'm like, all right, I got 3, basically. I said, I'm not going to live up here. I'm not going to die up here, because I knew at that time it was 1 o'clock, man. And I had to weigh in at 3. And I was like, this ain't going to fly. I said, I got one creek down here. These fish are always in there this time of year. Yeah, it's got throttled all through the week. So I knew that I'd have to have some fresh fish pull up. And I had this one fish in there. And Mark Menendez actually stayed at my parents' house right across the street. Or actually, the yard, actually, in the street. He stayed with us, and after the first day, he went in the creek, and I asked him. I said, "Did you find any fish up the lake?" He said, "Man, this tournament was tomorrow. I'd blow it out the water." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Was you in such and such?" I didn't name the name of it. I said, "Was it this and that?" And he said, "Yep." I said, "Did it have that, that, that?" And he said, "Yep." I said, "Well, you told me you stick every rod out there up my butt if you see me on them my places during practice." So I didn't go in there because I knew they'd be in there. Man, it's just like his facial expression just. He was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I find the winning fish, and now this one of Will's place up in here." Which I told him, I said, "Man, if me and you, talk about this right, me and you both have these fish, And I knew the winning fish were in there, but with that being said, there was this one fish up there on the bank, and I named her Whitey. She had a white film around her eye. They were bedding in there, and she wasn't locked in practice now, but around her film and her eye, man, it was just solid white. And I fished for her in practice, with no hook. And I throw up there, and she'd run over to it, and then she'd run about 20 feet and come back. 20 feet and come out. I was like, so third day after weigh-in, or not, excuse me, third day before I weighed in, he comes up to me, and I said, "Hey, Bo," I said, "did you catch any in that creek?" He said, "No, man." I said, he knew what fish I was talking about. I said, "Is Whitey still in there?" He said, "Yeah, man." He said, "I think she'll bite, man. I spent an hour on her." I was like, "Oh, golly, you spent an hour on her. That ain't good, So I knew in the back of my mind that them fish were coming to that place. Didn't matter how much pressure we had. They always pull in there late in the day. So I made a gamble, and I run there the 4th day at 1 o'clock, and I pull in there. And when I go in there, there's a 2 pounder on the bed, like fresh. As soon as I come in this place, and I'm fishing for it. And man, she'd bite at every cast. Bum, 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 I'm talking about, but she would just pick up by the pinchers or whatever. So I said, all right, I'll tie me on a drop shot. throw it over there, nothing. Well, then I threw my dad's wood jig over there, and she turned up on it. When she did, I seen her gills flare, and I set the hook and foul hooked her. And I said, that's a blessing right there. I threw her back, went on about my business. I go up in this creek, and I'm looking for Whitey, and she ain't nowhere to be seen, man. And it's a little point that runs out. This is exactly where he told me, exactly where I told him. That's where she lived, right here. I said, all right. So I go back in there a little bit further, and man, there was a ghost bass, as I call them, solid white. She just pulled in there, man. And she had a bed, like a little hole that she was, congregating around, but she'd swim like the length of your truck back and forth. And I was like, so I threw a jig in there, and when it fell down there, she runs up there to it and just noses it, and then goes off, comes back. So I was like, oh my gosh, I threw a fighting frog in there, drop shot, everything. Well, my dad, about 20 years ago, it had to be 20 years ago, we was fishing a Mark's Outdoors tournament on that lake, and he pulled out a long A Bomber makes. And I'm not sponsored by them. I just got to do what I got to do to put food on the table, man. And it was the last resort. It's always last resort because you never know. It's so easy to hook up there and squat it and pops them in the nose or the head, whatever. It's not in the mouth. So I was like, well, all right, I ain't through this, in probably about 7 years, but I've done it before, and they bite this son of a gun as the last resort. Because around the house, man, you don't fish 4 days. You know what I mean? 4 days in a row. So it's not like that's my go-to bait. It's just you got to keep it in the back of your mind that these pressure fish or whatever, you got to try everything that you know of. So I get this long A out, and of course it's them old school hooks. Man, this bait's probably 10 years old, and I get my Gamakatsu number 4s out. I take my time. I put them all on there. They're sharp as a tack. I fire up there, and man, she comes over there and she don't get it. But she just opens her mouth on it first cast. But she swims off, swim back, throw back in there, and I do the same thing. Well, I was like, all right. I throw it in there, and I let it sit right there until she got this close to it or whatever. And when she come over, I jerked that thing, said, and man, you can watch the video. She comes up there and just T-bones it. So I'm like, all right, man. In my head, I was like, all right. She got it good. I get her the boat, and I reach down and grab her. She jumps over my hands, and then she comes back around. I got my rod up, yada, yada. And back hook, she's got one right here in the roof of her mouth, and the other one's in the corner. But the back hook is just on the side, inside the mouth, and it comes out, and it gigs my thumb, man. I'm talking about it. I'm like, well, at least I got the fish in, and I didn't know if we could get help from the cameraman or nothing. Man, I'm a rookie, I ain't about to get in trouble or nothing, I want to do everything by the book,
Right.
And so I'm sitting on the front deck, and I said, man, can you help me? Because I didn't know. He's like, he turned the camera off. I was like, yeah, man, if it's an emergency, I can help you. So he's like, it goes in this thumb right here, and it's sticking. I can barely feel the point up here, and it's a short shank. So, and I didn't have no pair of cutters on the boat. I had pliers that would cut it, but I have no dikes or nothing where I could get, precise on it to cut it. He's like, dude, you're going to push that thumb. Oh, he said, I said, you know how to get them out? He said, yeah. When I, on the video, when he gets off, and Jake, the cameraman, man, he's awesome. Love him to death, man. He said, I can watch YouTube and figure it out. I said, oh, no. I said, no. We're not going to do YouTube,
Dr. YouTube.
I know it. So he told me, he said, man, we got some ice in here. I said, yes. He said, put that ice on there. Because I try to push it through, and man, your skin is so tough. You can't get it. So
especially your thumb, like after it's like got that wear and tear, it's like got that hard layer. You know what I'm saying?
It does,
good
man.
Old callus.
Yeah, it was something else, man. So I numbed it, and I pushed it all the way through after about 10 minutes. And at this time, man, it's 150. All right. And I had to weigh in at 3, and I'm 30 minutes up this river. So I got basically 30 minutes to fish. I told him, man, and I got my pliers and I got it close as I could to it, but the fatness of the arm of the plier, I couldn't get it in there. And I cut the other hooks off and everything, man. I still could not get it the way, where the eye of the actual treble hook, I mean, you just could not get it in there perfect. I said, all right, then. Well, we're going to go out here and find somebody, I said, I ain't got no choice. So I'm idling out this creek, and it takes 5 minutes to idle out of here. And I told him, I said, I hope somebody's close, And I started praying to God, man, that somebody, would be out here in the river somewhere. And I get the mouth of a creek, and this guy just pulled up. Never met this guy in my life. And I pull up, and I asked him, I said, man, you got a pair of cutters? And he said, I sure do. I'm talking about at the mouth of this creek now. I idle up there to him. He throws it in the boat. I hand the plier, or Jake grabs the pliers. He cuts the barb off. I back it back out. I gave this gentleman my number. Told him to call me after the tournament, and we would talk. And, I mean, if he was my wife, I'd have kissed him. You know what I mean? Because it was clutch. So I idle back in there 5 minutes. So now we're at 2 o'clock now. So I got, 20 minutes or 2:10. I got 20 minutes to fish, man. I pull in there, and Whitey is sitting just right. That fish that went in there. So I put another hook on my jerk bait. I fired up there. She acts like she's going to bite it. She don't bite it. I throw it back up there. I twitch it about 3 or 4 times. She comes over, man, and smokes it. And I get her in, and we're all high-fiving, I'm like, boom, I can't believe this happened, and super, super stoked about it. And, I was like, we got to go. So I look around for a few minutes, going out, and I don't see nothing. And he's like, how you feel, man? You think you won this thing? I was like, no, man. I said, ain't no way I won this thing. I got like 14 pounds, And he's like, you never know, man. You never know, man. You definitely wouldn't have, had a shot if you didn't have these 2 fish. That's so awesome. We was super stoked. I come out of this pocket, and my buddies were standing on this platform that work at this place, and they're up there. One's got his shirt off, swinging around. It was so cool, man. And actually, the guy's name's Tyler Pennington. he was standing up there on this platform, and it was cool, man. And I never had a a feeling that I won it at all. I knew it was going to be close. You just had this feeling inside of you when you're fishing a tournament that, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think I got enough. I'm going to win, or man, it's going to be close. And it's going to be close type feeling. So just super blessed. It all worked out the way it did. God had a hand in it 100%. And I give him all the glory for sure, man, because that stuff like that just don't happen,
Mm-hmm. Right. There's a decent amount of people there too for that weigh-in, even though it was a dang monsoon.
It was, man, and it was so crazy too. It's like after when I weighed in, lightning hit, man. It was like God was like, this is his time. It gives me chill bumps thinking about it.
Yeah, and 2 ounces, man. How crazy is
2
that?
ounces. Yep.
I mean, dude, if one of your fish just didn't eat the bluegill that morning, you may not be maybe not be with $100,000 right now.
That's ironic you say that, because the first day that fish I caught on a swim jig on an isolated deal, it spit up a bluegill half the size of my hand. Ooh. Yep. So that's probably 3 ounces there.
If it was roles reversed, you would have been thinking about that dang bluegill.
I've been thinking about that one and trying to boat flip them 2 on that spook. I promise you.
Yeah. I bet you would have. It's funny how just that small change, even how drastic it may seem, will completely change your outlook. You're like, well, we're good. We got it done regardless. But if you were in Brandon's position, you'd be waking up middle of the night with sweats just thinking about trying to land that fish. But dude, I mean, going back to the people saying, oh, you should have just boat flipped it, whatever, that whole thing. I mean, dude, it is the same people saying that Jason Christie should have lipped his frogfish that he tried to boat flip.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's the same thing. People are always going to say one thing or the other. I mean, you guys are the pros. You guys are the experts. Like, you know when you need to get down and grab the fish, or when that momentum's on your side and boat flip them. I mean, the people that can really, like you guys that can focus on when you're reeling in a fish, there is a select number of avid anglers, in my personal opinion, that know how to, one, like take the time to be able to focus on looking at where your hook is in the fish, then adjust the way you're fighting that fish pending what you see, where your bait's at. Like, even like, dude, the anglers that have the calm and collectness to when they're like throwing crankbaits or jerk baits and a fish only has one treble, that they're able to change their line direction to then stick another hook in that fish while they're fighting it. Like, it's stuff like that you don't even think about. So it's like, if you think the best thing is to boat flip them or grab them, I'm going to trust your judgment, because you're the pro for a reason, because you are the best at putting them in the boat.
Yeah. We still have hiccups, though. That's the best way to put it.
Everybody does.
There's fish. Like, you're going to have hiccups. There's a lot of things that we can't control. So
yeah, well, mentally hiccups, what I mean, stuff that you knew better, So it happens, man. It happens for sure.
No doubt. Well, dude, looking towards the rest of the season, obviously you got Sabine River coming up, which I think will probably take 100 pounds over 4 days to win.
Absolutely. If we can wait in,
we can wait in big.
Mudfish, grinnells, whatever, redfish. Yeah. It could be, it'd be, pushing 80 for sure.
Yeah, maybe a 10-day tournament. It'll take 100 pounds to win there. But
dude, I don't think you could do that.
Really? You don't think so?
I don't think so.
10 pounds on Sabine is a statement, to be fair. So, yeah.
For 10 days in a row, it'd be tough, man.
It would be interesting. But it's obviously you got Sabine, and you guys are kind of starting your trek north. I mean, do you vibe well with smallmouth? Are you guys on good terms?
Never fished up north.
Never been to Champlain?
No, I ain't never been there. But it's like one of my buddies asked me, I said, I might go up there and zero in the next 4 tournaments. But, as a fisherman, you have to have that killer instinct of knowing what to do, when to do it, and trying to figure out, what's right and what ain't right in your mind, as a fisherman. So with that instinct and fishing for a living now, you'd like to think it's a lot sharper than it would be just fishing local tournaments around here. So I'm going to spend a week on each lake beforehand before I actually are cut off. So that'll help some. But, do I think I can win them? In my mind, no. Could it happen? Anybody in any given tournament can win one of these. I mean, they're there for a reason. But if I can just finish in top 50s in the next, 3 out of 4 tournaments, I feel like I'd,
Classic.
Yes, sir. And that's your ultimate goal, through the year for sure.
Get a shot at 300K.
I know it. It's so hard to make it, dude. That classic is so hard to make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, buddy, I mean, you were talking about how Tennessee River, where you fished the classic, was a pretty place. I mean, you're in for a real treat when you go up to Champlain, let me tell you.
That's what they say. They say, man, it's beautiful. It's clear. It's got some of the best fishing in the world, up not just Champlain, but St. Lawrence and the other lakes up there,
Yeah, I mean, that's why all the boys from the South always love going up to Champlain for a reason, man. I wish we could talk about it, but obviously we don't want to get you in any trouble. We don't
want none of that.
Yeah, we know the rules around here, but we steer clear. But you're gonna have a fun time, and we'll get you back on afterwards. That way we can talk all about it as much as we want.
Yes, sir. That'd be great, man.
Heck yeah, man. But I mean, dude, smallmouth. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, having been in the north, it'll be interesting to get you back on again and kind of go through some of the things you learned, maybe some adjustments, things you might have correlated, if any, from say that of a Coosa bass on how smallmouth act. It'd be pretty cool. But man, Andy, you got anything left for Will here before we hit him with the last question?
No, I do have one question for Will. I want to know when, besides having like home field advantage, like on the Alabama River, like the water's always fluctuating, like how do you stay consistent? Because I'm sure you've won a bunch of money down there, like knowing the seasons, but like, is it a mental thing to be able to stay consistent, or is it just running like as much water as you absolutely can that you have history on to continue to get bit? Because I know nothing about the southern fisheries. Bailey's been down there a little bit, but it always seems like the northern guys, when they get down there, struggle a little bit at first, but if they can figure out how to be consistent, they tend to do better year over year. So how do you put it together to be consistent as the water is always changing?
I think knowing what fish do at certain times of the day, whether it be non-tidal or current, no current type deal, knowing what to look for. Current fish is the easiest fish to pattern, in my opinion, in Alabama, because of the fact that current fish, they don't get pressured near as much, which, I mean, not near. I'd probably say 20% less pressured than, other fish. So running and gunning and knowing where to go or what to look for with the current definitely helps, and knowing what to look for when the water's not flowing. If you can figure out what they're on with it off and what they're on with it on, you definitely will have some confidence for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Will, we're going to let you go here in a second. We got one more question to ask you that we ask everybody that's new to the show. And that is, if you could invite 3 different individuals to sit down, have a steak, have a beer, pick their brain. Any 3 individuals does not have to be fishing industry. Could be alive 1,000 years ago, alive now. Doesn't matter. Could be absolutely anyone, real or make believe. Any 3 to have a beer and a steak. Pick their brain. Who are you going to invite?
I know 2 of them for a fact. One would be Aaron Martins, and I ain't drank a beer with Aaron, but we fished in the boat a good bit together, and but now to eat a steak and drink a beer and pick his brain, it'd be Aaron Martins, Kevin Van Dam, and Rick Clun.
That's a talk about a group think right there. Holy moly. You got some some powerful minds riffraff, and especially with beer involved, you might have some stories.
Ain't no doubt. It'd be a long time to daylight top night,
It's right.
That was going past steak, beers, and dinner. That's going to morning by the campfire. Like, that's a long night.
That's watching the sunset and sunrise. Now, really fast, you bring up Aaron. He did some stuff with Davis Bates, correct?
Yes, sir. He did. He came to Dad with the shaky fish, and it was actually called the Scrounger then. And with that being said, he wanted it to run the way that Aaron wanted to run, and he wasn't satisfied the way that he had it at the time. So he came to my dad, and they spent countless hours on it, and they finally got it 95% right, and it's about as good as you could get it, which now, it's between that 95. There's no bait out there that's 100%. There's no bait out there. If it was, well, you catch every bass out there. So with that being said, they dialed in a couple key features about that bait, whether it was the collar, the way the collar was positioned for the bill, and then they changed the bill material, and it's It's dynamite now, man. It's got me here to the Elite Series, and it won me an Elite Series event. So that and a shaky head and our swimming jig, it's won me a lot of money. Won me a lot. It's one of it's my best lures. I don't even want. I guess if I shoot a lot of rifles and stuff, it's some of the best reloads or cartridges that you can reload because they're gonna get out there and get it done.
Oh heck yeah. Well, dude, for folks that want to check out Davis Baits, where can they do that?
You can do it on davisbaitcompany.com, Tackle Warehouse. Let's see. Bass Pro's got some of our shaky heads in there. And then local stores here in Alabama like Mark's Outdoors and Inverness, Alabama, and then Carabeas here in Chillsburg, Alabama. So
heck yeah. Well, we'll link the website down below for everybody that's either watching on YouTube or listening on MP3. We'll link that as well as Will's social medias. We'll put all your channels down there, Will, so that people can come and follow along, keep up with you. But dude, seriously, thank you so much for taking time out. Congrats again on the dub. I'm sure number 2 is not too far away. And dude, seriously, thank you for coming on, dropping some knowledge on us, and we'll hope to get you on here soon.
Well, I appreciate it, Bailey, and I appreciate it, Mr. Andrew. Y'all have a good evening.
Yes, sir.
Safe travels to Sabine.
I'll need it. I'll need some good luck down there for sure.
Enjoy it. I heard there's a lot of fish and they're all big.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right, man. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Y'all too. Yes, sir.
Have a good one.
Dude, I don't know about you. You watched the Lake tournament. Looked fun. You watch some, different things here and there from Coosa. There's a mix of heavy windows and patterns that play hard, and then it looks a lot of tough. But dude, the Coosa River, I don't know what it is, but it seems really intriguing to me.
Yeah, it looks like fun. I want to just go fish a bunch of that water willow stuff. Like, that looks fun to me. I'll probably stink at it and not catch a single bass because I know there's like key little areas within that water willow where you'll get bit. But I mean, yeah, I want to do that one day. We need to take the Camus and go.
I mean, I fished it for 3 hours once.
Yeah.
I'm Neely Henry, and
I had a pile of it blown out by people we
won't mention. We can mention their names. We called them out on the show. Mr. Justin Hamner.
Yeah, you're right.
We had a fun crew down there. It was for an X2 power shoot. We had Justin Atkins, Hamner, Wes Logan, Alex Rudd. We had a really good crew down there. And the only thing, we had Hunter Shryack down there as well. The only thing I'll take to the grave is I beat Wes Logan on something like from a 3-hour little derb that I was like a kid in a candy shop seeing all that bank grass throwing a frog. I'm like, oh, this is fun. And I got completely lucky and caught a couple good frogfish. Fun time. I mean, dude, it just seems like a really cool place because it is a lot of like, there's some offshore stuff we saw play. Will's talking about brush piles and such, but it's a cool place that I think that is heavily every angler on the bank type of deal. You see some forward-facing sonar happen here and there. We saw it with Hamner. I don't know. It's pretty intriguing, but I'm intrigued to see how Will's going to do when they head north. Smallmouth are a real treat for guys that have not experienced northern smallmouth. But speaking of northern smallmouth, Andy, what do you got coming up for the guide business? If anybody wants to come up, catch some big smallmouth, or even if they're interested, come for a northern largemouth trip.
Yeah, so I have limited days in July and August. I still have a bunch of days available in September. October is very limited. And I mean, really, September, October for smallmouth are probably almost as good as it gets. And I might even open up some tentative days in November. But unfortunately, that usually conflicts with like steelhead fishing. And that is what I end up transitioning to in November. But it all depends on when it gets cold and when I put the boat away. So we will see. I might see if Jeff will let me leave it in his pole barn until I can take it to Rochester in like December. So we'll see. And if we get a couple warm days, I'll pull the boat out and go bass fishing instead of steelhead banging. So, yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Well, we got the long weekend ahead of us. It is Memorial Day on Monday. And it is a time where I know one thing that we like to call out is there are, all these Memorial Day sales, things of that nature. But let's remember the true nature and reasoning for Memorial Day. And that is to remember those that gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we can sit here on a podcast and talk fishing with our heroes who are our fishermen like Will. They're the true heroes. And let's remember that going into this weekend while we're all having a good time. The reason that we're able to have a good time and have an extended weekend is because of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So,
yes, sir.
And I know it's Memorial Day, but at the same point in time, I'd be remiss if we did not call out those who currently have served that are still alive. Just make sure you guys are always thanking a veteran. Just say thank you for your service. I mean, it goes a long way. It means a lot to them, at least for the ones that I know. And with that said, Andy, folks, enjoy your long weekend and have fun. Hopefully I'll get to go fishing a little bit. Stay clear of some crazy boaters. Make good decisions. If you're making fun decisions, make them safe and good decisions. Yes. But beyond that, folks, appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.